Welcome back. We have another video about inventory, and in this video I will talk more about the importance of inventory and why it is worthwhile to study inventory management. When we look at inventory and operations, we have to say that inventory is very important related to operations. An operation is either producing products or services, and they need inventory to do that. Now, the inventory that is needed can be very simple when you're producing, for example, those concrete sewage pipes. It's not such a big difference. It's very simple inventory. But when you're creating cars, this becomes more and more complex. Now, when we look at inventories, we can look at them in different categories. We can state that we have the initial products, materials, and eventually services that are bought by the organization. So we have to see what are those input inventories, those elements that we are using to create our final product. For example, in an organization like AT&T, the products can be routers, cables, other physical elements that are needed to set up data connections. On the other hand, they may need services related to renting of data lines from suppliers, software needs, and so on. The final product for example, in a wide area network developed or delivered by AT&T will be, for example, data connections. So the data connection here would be the finished product that is in fact delivered to the customer. Now, whatever we do with operations, we have to have maintenance. We cannot keep on doing the work without having maintenance. Just look at airplanes. Operation of airplanes is very interesting. They're transporting people, but those airplanes need maintenance. When you're driving a car, it needs maintenance. Machines need maintenance. And of course, there will be elements, it's particular inventory elements that are specially necessary just to keep the operation going. When we look at the inventory and the importance, inventory is in fact very important because if we don't have any products to produce to create the finalized products, the production process will stop. And when the production process stops, for example, because of a lack of inventory items, that may lead to large losses. Just imagine how much it would cost if a production line of a car manufacturer today would stop operating. How much you think they would lose per day or per hour when you cannot produce? In some factories, these prices or these costs can end up to thousands of euros per minute or even per hour. So you have to see that your operation keeps on working in an optimized way. A good inventory management is necessary to guarantee that the production line is operating efficiently and that the different process steps have enough materials complete the operations. Missing inventory will disrupt the production process and can lead to delays and important losses. The production that is stopped, like I said, can be very, very expensive. I was looking at a production line in some smaller company where we came to prices like thousands of Czech crowns or hundreds of euros per minute that the operation was not producing products. That loss is something we have to avoid. Now, when we have the disruptions and when we have, for example, inventory that we may need to produce, we can provide some reserves in order to be sure that we never run out of inventory. So whenever we have a disruption, we can have some reserves, but we can also have some buffers in the process itself. So even when something would go wrong, that we still have some materials to work with while we are trying to resolve the inventory problem. Processes and it's something that has not been done before, have to maintain. We have to see that every item, every machine in the production process is working properly. It used to be that production lines were never stopped. If an operations manager would stop a production line, it would be probably executed on the spot or probably fired. Now, today, these things have changed because a production line that keeps on running probably will have some maintenance problems. And in order to that maintenance, we have to get special items to be sure that we can maintain, keep the machines in a proper working order so that they can create the products with the desired quality. Now, when you don't stop the production line to do maintenance and you just keep on running until a machine breaks down, the effect may be that, for example, the damage on the machine may be a lot more than when you do, let's say, a preventive maintenance. Just look at your car. When you have a car, you go to the garage at certain time intervals because the producer of the cars has identified that certain elements have to be changed: oil filters, oils, certain parts to support the engine, spark plugs, and so on. Now, during that maintenance, there is also a control to verify if some important parts are still okay, if the wear and tear on these parts is still within borders. Because, for example, you see that there is excessive damage on the brakes, you can decide to change the brakes at that moment. Not changing the brakes and just waiting, well, something may happen when the brakes break down, and then you have bigger problems. The same with airplanes. You need to do the preventive maintenance. You have to verify if you don't have additional problems that you have to take care of to ensure that the operation is going properly. Like I said before, it has been before that this was not done and it led to large disruptions, which typically were cleared by making the machines work even faster and, as a result, having worse quality results of the items that you were producing. And quality is very important today. So basically, you cannot take any measures that would create a problem related to quality. If you look at certain companies, for example, Mercedes, when you're providing parts for them, they typically would allow you to have one defectious part in 1 million. Defective means that it doesn't comply with the quality standards. Now, it is important. Quality and inventory are linked, and since the 1970s, quality management has become very important. Many systems like Kaizen and Six Sigma have been put in place to guarantee quality products. Kaizen is a method that comes from the Toyota production system. It was basically invented by Toyota, and Six Sigma was introduced by Motorola in order to identify quality issues and resolve them to get the production at a higher quality level. Quality standards start from the moment where the raw materials and finished goods bought from suppliers enter the company. When you buy goods, when you buy raw materials, you have to define what their characteristics have to be. And when you receive those goods, you have to do a sampling to be sure that the products that have been received comply with the quality standards. Now, I remember one case where a company was in fact dealing with a lot of problems. They found a better or a cheaper supplier. They bought the supplies from the cheaper supplier. Unfortunately, they didn't, or probably didn't, send out the correct qualifications. They thought it would work properly, and the moment they started using those new, cheaper materials in their production cycle, they saw that there was a problem. Now, this could have been resolved before selecting a new supplier, that you verify that the products they are providing, that they comply with your standards. And of course, once they are delivered to the company, you have to verify that the goods comply with these standards. The different process steps to create a finished product also have to be executed according to the predefined quality standards. And during production, it is important to verify the operation of these steps by using statistical process control. It will be a part of some other videos in this course of quantitative decision making and quantitative methods. Process steps that do not operate within the standards should be stopped and corrected. When you don't correct the problem on the production step, you keep on creating products that are not compliant, or the percentage of non-compliant products increases, and it will affect your total production outcome. So it's very important to see that the quality here is assured, for example, by doing preventive maintenance and by verifying that you have the products to repair the steps when it's necessary. You also have to have enough inventory to repair, for example, bottleneck steps, because once a bottleneck is stopped, cannot produce anymore, then it will cost a lot of money because you lose that capacity forever. So it's very important that the preventive maintenance is done in a way that it takes into account the importance of the process step. When we look at profit and loss and inventory, of course, inventory can create profits, but also losses. Now, operations that create products and services to be sold that to the customers, it is clear that a product can only be sold when it's completed and ready for sale. The items that are undergoing the production process are not completed yet. Nevertheless, they have undergone some transformations, and transformations means work and cost, and their value increases. It's what we call the value-added steps. When we look at the elements, does it mean that increasing the value of the product, does it automatically lead to higher products? Finished products that can be sold, and all production should be focused on creating the finished product in the most economic way, hence reducing the production costs to a low level. Increasing the value of the items is a good thing, but it's very important that we keep the level of work in progress inventory as low as possible. We will talk about that later when we look at other aspects of inventory. When we look at inventories, we can also look at the pressures on inventories, and there are different types of pressures that we can have. There is a pressure to have low inventories, but there is also a pressure to have high inventories. Let's have a look at low inventories. When we have less inventory, it means less costs. We have less holding costs, insurance costs go down, the cost of capital are proportional to the value of the inventory, and inventory holding cost is typically expressed as a function of the weighted average cost of capital. A reduced inventory also means that less storage space is necessary, and we have lower insurance costs. For example, when you have a catastrophe, like it happens sometimes, I've seen it in some factories, where they had a lot of work in progress inventory stored and even completed products inventory while they were having a flooding, and all those products were in fact destroyed. Inventory was lost. Of course, the insurance will pay, but on the other hand, you still need to redo everything. All the work that has been done before was lost. Less inventory also means a higher quality. It's the basis for what we call lean management. Less inventory is very interesting because we will find out quality issues a lot faster. And these are the principles that we use within Kaizen, just in time, and the Toyota production system. Reducing the inventory will reveal quality issues a lot faster. For example, when you're producing something, you put it in storage and then you bring it later into the production. It may happen that the part of those products that you prepared before were not of good quality, and when you start working on them again, you may find out that a lot of them are not usable. Basically, this way of working means that you lose time, you lose your production, and you have to do all the rework. When we have Kaizen lean management, these problems are in fact reduced, and one of the main tools to do this is to reduce the inventory levels. Less inventory also means a higher flexibility. Now, the raw materials that we take in stock are always up to date. So when you have products that are coming in, you know that you have always the best products. You can adjust your production a lot faster. Certainly in an industry where you are dependent on technological changes, it may go very fast. Look at a computer. When you buy a computer, it's already probably outdated because since the time it was created, new items have been developed, better storage, cheaper elements, better or faster processors. And when you have too much inventory, what will happen is that those products that you have in stock will first have to be used before you can replace them with better items. We also have less reduction or reduced damage and losses when we have less inventory. Lower inventory volumes means more important WIP inventory and finished product inventory. It also leads to lowered risks related to losses or damages, things like that. There are a lot of products that are waiting, like I gave the example, when the factory was flooded, all that were all that WIP inventory, work in progress inventory, was in fact damaged and had to reworked. Now, sometimes you have that inventory, and there are some cases where there is so much inventory, the inventory is not really organized well. And one of my favorite cases is where a company bought a Ford Mustang Cobra, quite interesting car, very sporty, very expensive. And they wanted to use that car to do some adjustments to show the products they have. And the car was brought to the factory, and the next day the car disappeared. So basically, they thought it was stolen. And 6 months later, they found the Cobra again just by moving some inventory. When you have less inventory, when your inventory is more organized, you will not have this case. That car would never have been lost, but it can also happen with other pieces of the inventory. Lower levels of inventory have a lot of advantages. However, on the other hand, there is also a pressure to have high inventories. When we have more inventory, it means that we have a better customer service. We don't have so much risk to have stockouts. And we can in fact take into account the uneven demand. We may have some fluctuations in the demand, which may lead to inventory stockouts when we don't have enough inventory. Having more inventory will help us to reduce that stockout problem. Ordering costs go down when we have more inventory because we are ordering with larger quantities. Ordering with larger quantities also means that we have less orders to order and, of course, less order costs to pay. Now, every time you order, you have to send out the order, you have to get an invoice. The number that is important here is the total number of invoices and costs related to that ordering. When you order larger volumes, it's clear that the order cost goes down. More inventories will help you to get higher sales. It's a result of the customer satisfaction. The customer knows that you have those things on stock. You can go there, there is no problem, you don't have to wait. While with some other companies, it may be that there may be a stock out because they're reducing their inventories. And that's the same thing, like I was saying, less stock out problems. You have sufficient inventory to cover uneven demand, and it's more probable that you will have enough inventory to comply with the demand. Stockout problems can lead to losses of sales because the people don't want to wait, they will go somewhere else, and of course you may lose your customers. We've seen here what inventory is about, what is the importance of inventory, and of course we have to find an optimization. We have to find a way to deal with the inventory in a way that we have an optimized cost. We want to optimize the inventory in order to be able to supply the goods that we have to supply, to deal with our customers, to reduce stockout costs. But on the other hand, we also want to reduce our total cost. We don't want to lose customers. So there is a kind of equilibrium exercise that we have to do in order to find the, let's say, the inventory level that would fit best our business. Inventory is important, so in the next video we are going to look into the different inventory profiles that we can expect. There will be two types of profiles we will be looking into, and that will be in the next video. This is the end of this video. You're doing a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you and bye-bye.